Hi everyone, my name is Elena Popchock and I'm the Exhibition Developer at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. Today, you're joining me in our newest exhibit about the 19th Amendment. It's called the 19th Amendment, How Women Won the Vote. And this is our section 2 of the exhibit titled Changing Tactics, and it covers the period from the end of Reconstruction all the way to the eve of the United States involvement in World War I in Europe. This is a very large period of time that we're covering, and we feature the various tactics that suffragists used to get the right to vote. There were multiple avenues that they were taking, but they were all leading to one overarching goal, is for national voting rights for women. There's multiple ways that they were trying to pursue this through a national amendment that would grant them the right to vote. They were lobbying and petitioning Congress. They had been doing that for decades. And they also were pushing for state-level campaign because they believed that if enough women got the right to vote at the state level, whether it was in a school board election, all the way to full voting rights in all elections, they believed that this would make people realize that women should have the right to vote, and that things wouldn't fall apart if women were able to go to the ballot box. Because there were plenty of anti-suffragists who start to appear in this section that were fighting against this idea of votes for women. And as we feature the state campaigns, we cover multiple stories and artifacts that tell that compelling story. One of the state campaigns that we feature is for Pennsylvania. And like many other suffragists beforehand, Pennsylvania suffragists embraced symbols of the American Revolution to fight their oppression. And this included the Liberty Bell. And by the time of 1915 rolling around, when Pennsylvania voters were going to be faced with a ballot measure to determine if women should receive full voting rights at the state level, they decided to create a replica Liberty Bell, which became known as the Justice Bell. And ultimately, this Justice Bell traveled to every county in Pennsylvania trying to drum up support for that ballot measure. And it was attached to the bed of a truck, and the clapper inside the bell was actually chained to its side. That represented the silencing of women's voices. And they vowed that it would not ring out until women had the right to vote. Now, unfortunately, in 1915, voters decided that women should not have the right to vote in Pennsylvania. So the Justice Bell remained unrung, and it wasn't until 1920, with the ratification of the 19th Amendment, did the bell finally ring out in Philadelphia, representing that women finally had their voice to be able to be heard. And we feature one of the artifacts from that campaign as a souvenir of the Justice Bell. It's a watch fob displayed here with a little Justice Bell attached to it, commemorating that 1915 moment. And in addition to this item, we have multiple other state campaign artifacts on display. The largest display of artifacts that we have here in this exhibit is what you're seeing next to me. We were so excited by all the really cool artifacts produced by the women's suffrage movement that we took over this entire wall from floor to ceiling with posters and functional items like calendars, dishware, to show how women were getting the word out that they wanted the right to vote. And while there's a huge part of the population that's pushing for women's suffrage, let's not forget, with any change, there's always an opposition. And that's where we introduce the anti-suffragists. We feature some of their artifacts here, but they produce relatively few compared to the larger women's suffrage movement. Now, by the 19-teens, women started organizing suffrage parades to take their cause to the streets and try to get people to recognize that they wanted the right to vote. Now, if you were attending one of those parades, you might wear a button to show your support. Or you might carry a pennant, or perhaps you show your colors by wearing a sash, or even carrying an umbrella. And lastly, maybe you were given a paper fan like this one here, "Keep cool and raise a breeze for suffrage." One of the most famous moments in the women's suffrage movement is the 1913 parade in Washington, D.C. Thousands of women from across the country and the world gathered in Washington, D.C., very purposely on the eve of President Woodrow Wilson's inauguration. So it's March 1913. Alice Paul was the primary organizer of this suffrage parade. She's featured here. She was a Quaker from New Jersey and very prominent in the final few years of the movement. She received a letter that we feature in the exhibit as she was organizing the parade from a Howard University sorority asking that they could be placed in a desirable section in the college section of the parade. Ultimately, she never got back to them. But as these women arrived, and other women of color like Ida B. Wells, also featured here, they were told to march in the back of the parade. But we do know that Ida B. Wells ultimately defied those orders, and she marched proudly with her Chicago delegation.